What up? What up? What up? What up?
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Uncomfy Truths Politics Talk. It's been a little bit of a minute. I know y'all probably going to beat us up, but, we got lives, we got things, work, things that happen. But we are back finally for the long overdue episode 53 of Uncomfy Truths. I am your co-host, conservative brother, here with my main man, conspiracy brother. How you doing, good sir? Good to hear you back.
Yeah, not too bad. How about you?
Good, man. Just one day at a time. It's a crazy world we're in. And it's so funny, conspiracy brother. I was reflecting because when we first took our first hiatus or break, if you will, I don't know if you recall, it was 2023. It was February 2023. I had a change in my work schedule, things going on. So we took a bit of a hiatus. And then come October of 2023, what happened? October 7th, And then when we took our little hiatus, it wasn't long after. It was actually about, we did our last show. I think it was about 10 days after Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. And, last few months, tumultuous times. And then next thing you know, we got a war with Iran. So it seems like whenever conspiracy brother, we may have to take a break, take a step away for work schedules, holidays, another war breaks out. And we got to come right back on here again, So I guess it must be a sign or something.
Yeah, we got to keep doing the show for the safety of the free world.
Exactly. All right. So, yeah. And also, conspiracy brother, we did finally get a thumbnail. I did update a thumbnail. So we do have an updated thumbnail 453 with the most current topics. So, I don't know if you're able to do that during the show to maybe swap the current screen or not. But either way, I did just message you a thumbnail I was able to update. But once again, guys, welcome back to Uncomfy Truths. We are going to be back on. Don't hold us completely to it. But conspiracy brother, I did float the idea about doing the shows. Obviously it's Friday night, doing a show on Friday evenings, and then for those like maybe Pastor Green or whoever can make the show on Sunday, we might do like an alternate show on Friday, then maybe a bonus show on Sunday, or if we can't do a show on Friday, those of us that can make it Sunday could do a show on Sunday. So but for right now, we're going to be starting a weekly schedule. All right. So at least every Friday, or if we can't do Friday, we'll do Sunday. And we're going to try, push ourselves to do a weekly show, because a lot of things going on, a lot of things we got to catch up on. And I think the best way for us to stay consistent, just put our time where our mouth is and at least commit to doing it weekly. Doesn't mean we're always going to hit it weekly, but if we aim for weekly, that's the goal. So once again, guys, follow us on Uncomfy Truths on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. You can follow Conspiracy Brother at a look underneath with Conspiracy Brother, as well as you can follow Pastor Green, who wasn't able to join us on our return show tonight, at Pastor William Green, or at William Green. And yeah, man, if you want Conspiracy Brother, we can you can switch. I guess, are you able to do that? Are you able to take it off a screen share and then be able to swap out that thumbnail I sent you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've already changed it.
Okay, cool. Or so it's gonna appear like on the screen that we're on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You mean
All
for
right.
the show?
Yeah, for like the show we're on right now.
For the YouTube thumbnail?
Well, I mean, yeah, the thumbnail, I could switch that out later, like after the show. I mean, like the one right now, the one that's showing.
Oh, yeah, the one right now is already changed.
Oh, I see. Oh, cool. My bad, man. Yeah, I'm tripping. Cool. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what it takes, a team. Teamwork, the dream work. All right. So our first topic, conspiracy brother, if you wanted to maybe type this into Google. Fortunately, I'm not on screen share capability tonight. But the first topic under our domestic and local affairs is Supreme Court ruling overturning the Colorado conversion therapy ban. So it's the Supreme Court ruling overturning the Colorado conversion therapy ban. So if you wanted to, type and throw that up, or I'll just get my thoughts first on that while you maybe pull that up on screen share. But I feel like, insanity is slowly starting to come back, at least come from a culture war standpoint. So basically, this was the 9-1 ruling where I think the last 20 years in Denver, Colorado, one of the wokest, liberalist states, which I've been told it was actually more conservative at one point, but it kind of just turned purple then blue the last 20 years. But basically, there was a teacher there or a counselor who basically was reaffirming people's biological sex. And basically they were coming after her and threatening her job and all that. And basically anybody who reaffirms what they were born as versus no, they demonize the whole, pray away the gay camps or whatnot. But this is just basically a counselor just saying like, hey, you were born a girl, you're a girl. So Supreme Court finally did the 9-1 ruling, so it's done. Of course, it's just Ketanji Brown Jackson who dissented. No surprise there. But yeah, man, I got a lot. Conspiracy Brother, if you want to go ahead, we got a few topics coming up. But what are your initial thoughts? Our first topic on the Supreme Court conversion therapy ban overturning.
So the thing is interesting about the way this is presented as conversion therapy. So everybody, like what you hinted at, everybody knows or has an idea of what is meant by conversion therapy. And like you said, it's typically used to indicate a person who is gay or like a homosexual, and they have like a same-sex attraction, and so they were sent to some cases camps or therapy or psychotherapy in order to try to suppress those ideas or alleviate those feelings from themselves by usually their parents or whomever. And so what they did in a lot of states, they passed something like that here. It was a ballot measure, not this past election, but I want to say 4 years ago. What they did is they confused, I'll say, or they distorted what is understood by conversion therapy to mean, as you said, simply telling a person who may have like gender dysphoria that they are the gender or whatever, sex or whatever that they actually are, is gender conversion therapy, or is a conversion therapy, or going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and them not affirming a new gender identity is a form of conversion therapy. And so, we've talked about this on the show a lot, but there must be some greater purpose behind all the push for a belief in gender ideology or whatever you want to call it, right? Because it doesn't really make sense that we would advocate for children to have so much autonomy with this aspect of their lives, this permanent fixture of who they are relative to everything else that they do and can do. So overall, I think it's a good deal, but I think it was overturned as a free speech issue, if I'm not mistaken. And so it amounts to It was either a free speech issue or the grounds of a religious rights issue, which, I still think this may not be the end of it, as a ideology that we see pushed around, but it's good that it was overturned in this instance.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, a lot to say there, and a lot more to come from that. That won't be the last of it. All right, man. Next topic. Well, we got the Google up under domestic/local affairs. I'm at least a big fan of Charlie LeDuff, his work at Fox 2 Detroit, while a little sensationalist. He's done some great work the past 10, 15 years, exposing a lot of different things from, the Detroit bankruptcy, the initial, in mayoral corruption, even the Kwame administration, and even through a lot of what Mayor Mike Duggan. So I think if you put in, and I know they're probably good at censoring this, you put in City of Southfield, Northland, dirt, contamination, or something to do with that, because Charlie's continued to cover that. There's been documents and FOIA requests that he's put out. And it's just amazing how, obviously conveniently a lot of more of this news broke out before the city of Detroit election. Oh, it's crazy. It's been since before our last show, we had Mary Sheffield, who's been elected the new mayor of Detroit. Yeah, so we kind of missed that news cycle. But those of you guys not familiar with the Detroit area, Mayor Mary Sheffield, daughter of Horace Sheffield, big-time pastor, influencer, politician. She won. She was the Detroit City Council president, kind of underling under Mayor Mike Duggan, who has been the mayor of Detroit since 2013. And basically Mary Sheffield faced off against Pastor Solomon Kittenlock of Triumph Church. Big mega, churches around Detroit. And next thing you know, we got a new mayor in, Mary Sheffield, who's kind of the company man or company woman, and it's going to continue to kind of push the narrative. So yeah, that's the one, Michigan Enjoyer. If you click on one of those, actually click on the third one. The Facebook or the website. Because a lot's been exposed, and Charlie LeDuff, I definitely suggest you guys follow Charlie LeDuff. He has a show called No BS News Hour, and you could probably play the first few minutes of that. I'm just going to finish up No BS News Hour, and then also Karen Dumas, who used to be a very prominent AM radio host, and I think she was the communications chair under, I think, Dave Bing administration. She's exposed a lot about just everything going on. But yeah, Conspiracy Brother, any thoughts on this development before we maybe play part of the video?
I'll let the video play. I'd actually heard that there was some new development, but I didn't get a chance to research it yet. So I'll just play the video.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny how we,
Why is the mayor of Southfield, Michigan, afraid of this?
Can you hear that?
Yep, I can hear it. Yep. Go right ahead.
Because it's the sword of truth. Watch. We told you how the dirt at Northland Mall is poison. And they dumped it in Detroit. And now Detroit's poison. Well, this guy, Southfield Mayor Ken Siver, called me a sensationalist and a...
Let's see if I can rewind this. This buffering is out of control.
A liar. Kind of reminds me of his. Mayor of Southfield, Michigan. Why is the mayor of Southfield, Michigan afraid of this? Because it's the sword of truth. Watch. We told you how the dirt at Northland Mall is poisoned, and they dumped it in Detroit.
Man,
how about
And now Detroit's poisoned. Well, this guy, Southfield Mayor Ken Siver, called me a sensationalist and a liar.
let's see. Let's see if I can work something out. Sheesh.
yeah, see if you can maybe play it, maybe you can mute it and then just let
That
it
reminds
play
me of
over.
this guy.
It's a bunch of nonsense.
So this guy, the mayor of Southfield, wanted proof. I said I'd bring it by.
My goodness.
How about this,
And he
conservative
agreed
brother?
to
Why don't you mute the sound and then we'll just commentate over the video. So just let it play and
Let's see if we can at least.
yeah, at least
look
it's
like some calculator again. Maybe that'll help. We get the
all right.
the
Yeah, try it again.
okay. Got tabs open because I'm doing all this different stuff, but let's see.
Why is the mayor of Southfield, Michigan afraid of this? Because it's the sword of truth. Watch. We told you how the dirt at Northland Mall is poisoned, and they dumped it in Detroit, and now Detroit's poisoned. Well, this guy, Southfield Mayor Ken Siver, called me a sensationalist and a liar. Kind of reminds me of this guy.
It's a bunch of nonsense.
So this guy, the mayor of Southfield, wanted proof. I said I'd bring it by. And he agreed to a 1 o'clock interview Monday. 1 o'clock appointment with the mayor.
So I've been told that he's not coming in today.
Oh, he's not coming in today.
I know he's not here because I've been looking for him. As you can see, I'm out of breath.
You want to give me an interview? I'll show you.
I don't even know what this is about. I just heard soil and that's it, so I don't have anything.
Northland Mall.
So,
The city doesn't have any.
The city has no documents on the soil testing.
After you have the 2016, so anything past that.
After 2016, when the mayor told everybody bring the dirt in, nobody ever tested that.
I don't know about nobody.
Okay.
We didn't, and we don't have the reports because that we didn't have it's not our property, it's not our dirt.
But before you sold the property, it was.
I'm gonna advise him.
Well, you're the lawyer.
Well, yeah, we're not gonna.
I'm answering, my answer in response to your FOIA. We responded is what I'm saying.
No testing. What do you mean they never tested the dirt? Wow. Eventually, they did give me someone to talk to, but I think the guy was a plant. Why in the world would a mayor not let his people know that they are possibly being poisoned? It's a major scandal, and the enjoyers learned that the feds are now on the case. And the mayor, he's gone missing. So back to the cops I went. How you doing? I'd like to file a missing persons report, please.
Okay, what's going on? Who's missing?
Mayor Ken Siver, he was supposed to give me an interview at 1 o'clock, and it's nowhere to be found. Or his courage. Can I file a missing courage report?
Can't do a missing courage report.
Can do a missing courage report.
Can't.
Okay, we'll do it ourselves then. Thank you for your service.
All right. Conspiracy brother, thoughts?
I mean, this is, standard. And I mean, it feels unfortunate to say it this way, but this is the corruption that we continue to see. And then people want to behave in a surprised manner when you find out that poisoned soil, children who play in the soil, and they grow up and become adults with deficiencies or older children with deficiencies, and the issues are compounded, and you wonder why certain groups have certain issues. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, ultimately, will anything happen from this? I doubt it. And that's the real story, is that there is nothing that will come from this. That's never
the real
is.
tragedy. Yep.
Right. That's the real tragedy.
And I find it just amazing to kind of piggyback off of that conspiracy brother. I remember one of our shows back in like maybe late spring, early summer, when word started to get wind and kind of the mayoral race was starting to pick up. There was still like 12 candidates. And I remember just going like, all right, this Mary Sheffield. I remember hearing her name around and seeing her. Okay, she's a city council president. I don't know. I don't know if you remember this in the episode. I was saying like, I don't know enough about her, but I'm sure they're all there for a reason, and they got some some dirt or skeleton, like literally poison dirt. We found out some skeletons in the closet, and here we are. Like it's all a cabal. Mayor Cyber or whatever his name, working with Dugan, and then Sheffield in cahoots with Brian McKinney, who got the DI hire, got these contracts and dumped the dirt everywhere. And I think there was something. If you watch the full episode, it's called Weasel. The full episode of this, he kind of breaks down how there's links to some cronies down in Miami, and how a lot of that dirt was trucked in from different places. And yeah, there's very dirt, and there's been episodes where there's a lot of different citizens who've talked about, there's still holes that haven't been filled up yet, or they got dirt in there. And this is just a sad kind of bubbling where we don't know. This might have a bigger impact than the whole public school, the bankruptcy, the Detroit public school fallout. It's just like we're like in this pressure keg while we're all looking at, oh, look how great downtown is and all this stuff. And it's like nobody's talking about this except for this guy and, Karen Dumas and, a few others who are kind of censored and throttled, So, yeah, it's just sad that nothing's going to likely come out of this. There's Detroit corruption, Chicago corruption, everything in between. But all right, let's go on to the next topic. We're going to put Trump administration saving college sports NIL case. All right. Now, while we're on the topic of college sports and NIL, while Conspiracy Brothers bringing that up, got to give a shout out to the Michigan Wolverines. While we're still teetering on World War III and all this other stuff, it's good to kind of, and then also you could type in, you could click news, the news tab, and you can kind of, yep. Shout out Michigan Wolverines. There we go. So our first championship since '89, Michigan Wolverines football. We still got to fall from grace. We got to work on, but we at least celebrate the small win of once again Michigan Wolverines took it home. Shout out Dusty May. Shout out to the transfer portal Monstars or Dream Team. But we have this topic here on Donald Trump saving college sports. Now, and I talked about this before, and I know we both have nuanced takes. And there's some things I do agree with this executive order. Other things I don't, because once again, no matter what the topic is, even if it's something that you feel is in your favor, even if you agree with it, the continued encroaching of government on businesses or enterprises that run their business is always troubling. But I think one of the basics of this executive order includes that college athletes can only play up to 5 years. And then I believe they can only transfer once. So I think that's the bare bones biggest things. Yeah, 5 years, one transfer right there. Yep. And yeah, there's a whole lot else. I got a lot to say on it, but Conspiracy Brother, if you want to go ahead and give your initial thoughts, good, bad, big deal, little deal, no deal, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's a hypocrisy and it's wrong. Lane Kiffin left his teams multiple times, right?
Mm-hmm.
He left Tennessee for USC. He left FAU for Ole Miss. He left Ole Miss for LSU. And nobody cared. Nobody in the sport, not the president, no other coaches. It just was what it was. In the past, a player could be at a school, and that school Well, let's be specific. So Alvin Kamara is a running back for the New Orleans Saints, and he graduated, or the college that he went to, that he is listed as an attendee of, I don't know, graduate or attendee, I'm not sure, is the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, right? That is not where he started college. He started at the University of Alabama with Nick Saban. He was a running back there, and the other running backs in the room with him at Alabama that year was Derrick Henry, eventual Heisman winner, T.J. Yeldon, eventual NFL player, and Kenyon Drake, eventual NFL player. So you had 4 NFL guys on one team, right? One that was an eventual Heisman winner. And Alvin Kamara really couldn't break through on the roster. So he had to transfer. And in those days, when you transferred, coaches could put restrictions on where you could go. Right? So in that time, Nick Saban says, okay, you can leave, but if you leave, you cannot go to another SEC school. So no school in our conference. So as I told you, he went to Tennessee. How did that happen? He had to transfer to a community college in, I believe, Kansas. We can look this up. It's not super relevant to the meat of the story, but he had to go to a community college, or what he could have done was sit a year, wait a year, and then after a year, go transfer to any school he wanted to. And he eventually went to the community college, and he transferred to Tennessee, and he was fine. He made it to the NFL. He's been kind of one of the more dynamic and useful players, offensive players, running backs in the league, right? But there was no rule against that, against what Alabama would do in the SEC in general. I don't know if they still do it, but it was called gray shirting. So if they had 5 scholarships, for example, they may recruit 6 people. And you get to camp and you go through fall camp and you still don't have a scholarship. And so you're essentially trying out for the team. And you go through camp and they look at the roster and they say, well, you're the best person and you don't make it and you make it. And so you got your 5 and the one guy's the odd man out and he's got to go. And so he goes to another school, or he goes to a community college, or he sits out a year, or whatever happens. And that's it. Where in the Big Ten, you can't do that. In the Big Ten, you can only offer the scholarships you have. If you got 10 scholarships, per the league, you cannot offer 11. You cannot offer 15 and have the players essentially fight over them. The scholarships are guaranteed for the 4 years that you're there. In the SEC, your scholarship is only guaranteed for a year, from year to year. Now, Mark Richt, who was the head coach of Georgia, he didn't do that. He personally, when he was the head coach of Georgia, your scholarship was good for 4 years, but they eventually ran him out of Georgia. And so I'm going this whole way around to show you the actual issue here is that now players have agency and they have the opportunity to flex their own independence as it pertains to this sport. When Nick Saban could pay a kid $200,000 to come to Alabama, or buy his parents a truck, or give his mom or dad a job or a house or a double wide, that was great because he could afford that. The University of Alabama could afford that. But now that everything's above board and everything is on the table and not under the table, the asking rate for kids is $1 million or $2 million or $12 million. And they might not be able to pay 20 guys $2 million when they could afford to pay 20 guys an F-150 Or, 10 guys, $100,000, and then a couple guys, maybe you got to give 200,000, and a couple guys you can get away with giving their parents a job. Right. And so that's the hypocrisy. A coach can change jobs whenever he wants to, as much as he wants to, and there's no rule in place. The only penalty is if he has a high enough buyout in his contract that will inhibit another team from wanting to poach him. That's it. There's no other restriction. Lane Kiffin got a new job while his team was in the playoff. They were a game away, if I'm not mistaken. Making
out of pocket. Totally out of pocket. I'm with you.
They were a game away from making the national championship. And he left to go somewhere else. Will Wade, the coach at LSU, right now, basketball coach, got fired from LSU for some recruiting issues, if I'm not mistaken, was at NC State, just quit NC State. I don't know if they made the NCAA tournament. I don't believe they did, but I can't remember. Got rehired at LSU and took the players with him to LSU that he wanted from NC State. And that's perfectly fine to do because he's the coach. But when players say, hey, I don't want to stay at this school, it's not a good fit, or this school is offering me more money, you have a problem. If I'm working a job myself and I want to quit a job every day and I can get a new job, it's no one else's business. If I can't get a new job and I'm just homeless and destitute, no one cares. It's not considered the responsibility of anyone else to find me food or find me employment or find me housing. I've made an adult decision by myself. And so I don't like that we've tried to mask or masquerade this concern for students or the sanctity of the game when the NCAA has only ever been concerned with itself and making as much money as it could at the expense of the players. And no, a free college tuition is not equivalent to the millions of dollars that you can make because of your name, image, and likeness generating returns for the sport you play, for the institution you play at. If a guy's worth $12 million in the college because he's a great athlete, he can pay for his own. Make him pay for school. Cut the scholarship. Hey man, you got a $10 million NIL deal. You pay for your own college. Here's the real world. Pay for your own college. Pay for your own access to the facilities. Or if not, if you don't want to be that extreme about it, pay for your own room and board and tuition. At least get rid of the scholarship. I was watching a video earlier about the NCAA and how it was started and how the whole idea of amateurism versus professionalism came about. And it was never noble. It was always intended to make the NCAA money at the expense of these players who, from the very beginning, felt like they should be treated as some form of employee. We're celebrating Michigan's national championship. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. last night watching Michigan hockey play Denver in the Frozen Four in Las Vegas, which they ultimately lost 4-3 in double overtime. Right? But we're watching these people. We're watching them because it's an institution that we root for because it's in the state that we live in. But we're watching these people because they go there and they're good athletes. We're not watching them because they're bad athletes. So there has to be some kind of give and take. If a kid was in the engineering department, you wouldn't put a restriction on him being able to work or make money or leave or go or
use his name and image and likeness to generate revenue for himself. That's supposed to be the American capitalist way. How do we see fit to accept this type of what it will essentially be is market manipulation in this instance? Right? This is price control. This is communism. And then people say, well, hey, man, you know, what about some of the kids? They're making millions and other kids are only making a couple thousand. Welcome to the real world. Name me a lineman that makes as much as a quarterback in the NFL. Name me one. Name me a running back. Name me a wide receiver who makes as much money as the quarterback. And I'm talking about a good quarterback. I'm not talking about some has-been, somebody washed up, somebody who got drafted low, and like a Brock Purdy who got drafted low and just ended up being a good player. But I'm talking about a Patrick Mahomes, a Tom Brady, a Matt Stafford, a Jared Goff. Show me, a Jalen Hurts, a Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield has never won NFL MVP, right? So Matt Stafford just won it. So you can say, well, Matt Stafford's an MVP. All right, let's get a regular average guy. Find me a receiver that's making as much. Find me an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman that is making as much money as a franchise quarterback. You are not going to see that. So if we're going to try to pretend that our concern is for the fairness and equality in pay and income for players, are we communists now?
I got a few thoughts. I'll let you finish up.
No, you can. I know I talked for a while, but this always been important to me because I feel like, the NCAA is a trash organization who should not exist.
I agree.
You allowed men to swim with females, to compete with females, to change in changing rooms with females. You have no moral authority.
They finally had to walk that back last year.
Right, but you have no moral authority. You have nothing that you can lean on that would make me want to believe that you're doing anything with the best interest of the athletes in mind. So I'll let you go.
All right, so I'm gonna go. All right, so I know we got a few topics coming up, so I will just take it from here that at the end of the day, this is just a reflection on the whole that golden rule. Cream, cash rules everything around me, and power corrupts everything absolute, or whatever it is. But basically, at its foundation, I think what a lot of people forget, before NCAA, there was the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. And I'm sure there's probably some controversy, some politics, or some hidden history I don't know about. But at the end of the day, the genesis of organized sports, men's sports, it started with the YMCA. And I'm sure there's other groups out there, some I don't know about, but at its essence, YMCA was originally intended for training, mentoring, and organizing young men to compete in different sports. And that was the model for a long time. I'd say late 1800s through maybe the mid 1900s. And as corporate interests, as money, as that starts to slowly reach its tentacles into everything, this is where we're at in this sports betting world, in this FanDuel, DraftKings mentality. Now, I agree. The first thing they tell you about leadership when it comes to a football coach or any coach is that the coach should always be willing to do what they tell the player to do. So I agree. For years and decades, the amount of money these coaches would make, millions on top of millions. And I do agree that, once again, they do have penalties. They do have to pay, but obviously, like you said, there's loopholes around that where every coach that leaves for a different job, they're not giving the level of penalties and losing the amount of money that would deter like a Brian Kelly or Lane Kiffin or a lot of these other sort of job hopping coaches. So I agree that, conspiracy brother, there's been a long systemic issue of letting these coaches run wild and making all this money. And once again, there haven't been enough penalties or fees to really deter that. Now, on the flip side, when it comes to, once again, like the student athlete, I get it how just for years, once again, they haven't been able to make any money. They go off of all their scholarship or whatever it is. And basically, the biggest issue is the fact that, you know, we're blurring the lines between what would be college, you know, basically being a collegiate athlete versus, you know, the pros, you know. And just my biggest concern is the fact that, like, why do we even have college sports anymore with NIL? This might as well just go straight to the pros. And I think the biggest problem is the fact that, and I kind of talked about this, is that I think the coaches, they need to get, first of all, a same or similar structure to where they either take the pay cuts and is redistributed. They either have the same exact rules where, once again, they can't transfer, they can't job hop, same way the students can't. There needs to be a level playing field between the coaches and players. That's number one. Number two, I do agree that, once again, NIL, when it comes to your sponsorships, when it comes to your brand deals, I think any player should be able to make as much as they want. And that goes back to what you said as conspiracy brother in the marketplace. The so-and-so over here, the QB, Arch Manning, Fernando Mendoza, they're able to make a brand $5-10 million deal. And my man's over here, the unknown wide receiver or tackle, he can only make $500,000. Tough luck. All right. However, I do think with those dynamics where you have a coach that's making, you know, you have a coach that's making less than $2 million, or you have like a teammate who's only making $100,000 or whatever it is, they don't have the same level, or even the coach has the same level of grasp to where he can like mentor, where he can kind of challenge or push that player, you know, hop right into the portal. And where do we draw the line where someone's hopping schools just because they didn't like how the coach talked to them, or they didn't like the workout or the training, or they didn't like this or that, versus maybe legitimate like money issues, you know? So that's just my biggest concern, is that it's become so convoluted. And I thought it would be something good that we could probably do with something like a stipend, to where, like, hey, if you're a Fernando Mendoza, you're a Bryce Underwood, if you got that $10 million brand deal, yeah, that's your money. That gets put off into like an annuity or something, to where as soon as you go pro or you decide to leave college sports, that's your money. You could take that with you. And, you know, in the meantime, everybody should be on a level playing field. All the coaches should get a same $100,000 salary. And then all the players maybe get like a $50,000, $75,000 level salary. Now, that doesn't affect your brand deal, your NIL. The fact is, that's going to help alleviate or deter against what's become this school pay for play. It went from brand deals and associations and sponsorships to, okay, all these colleges are now just finding loopholes to pay for play and get their players to their school. And this takes away the whole Cinderella. There's no Cinderellas anymore. There's never going to be like a small school like a Loyola, or, you know, all these other little Cinderella stories over the years. It's like the Big Ten, the Pac-12, who are going to be buying up all the players. So where is going to be the meritocracy with that, when we created this thing where every institution can just pay the most? So I know I'm kind of throwing a lot at you, but I do agree the coaches this long should have been the coaches' salaries, and the coaches' way to just job hop, that should have been reined in a long time ago. And we're now seeing the roosters coming home to roost, basically. The chickens coming home to roost, basically. And I think, once again, if we have to realize, when it comes to inserting money and how, you know, you can bet off of anything, and how more of that money and more of that corporate interest gets pumped into this, you know, once again, you're getting players that, instead of going to school 4 years, 5 years, develop as an athlete, get their degree, and then go to the pros, they may come from a single parent household. So now they're worried about they uncles, their moms, and everybody being the meal ticket, making as much money as you can, and then basically you're kind of stifling their development, and that's why you get the brothers coming back 25, 27 years old. They want to play in the league 6, 7 years, and it's become so backwards. So I definitely understand. We got to rein in the coaches making all this, the corruption of the institutions, get rid of a lot of this sports betting. But I can't point it to just say it's just that one issue of just the coaches making too much money. That is an issue, but to me, that's just my opinion. It is multifaceted. So I just wanted to kind of, I don't know if I threw too much at you. Those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, I don't see what I think is going to eventually have to happen in order for there to be any kind of fairness.
It's just not sustainable. This isn't sustainable.
Well, yes, what's going to have to happen to create stability and sustainability is you're going to have contracts. You're going to have and I said this in 2016. You're going to have a super league with maybe 30 teams in the top tier. And maybe because there's like 136 teams in Division I football. So you have like 30 teams in the top tier, and you have maybe, you split the next 100 teams in some other configuration. And just like in European soccer, you have a relegation and a promotion system. And so every game you win is a certain set of points.
Okay.
Every game you lose is a certain set of points. And at the end, the lowest two teams gets moved down to the second division, and the highest two teams from the second division get moved up to the first division. And you don't have to play everybody because you can't play everybody in a 30-game system, a 30-team system if you're only playing once a week. But what this does is it creates an incentive, and it allows for a structure where you can make a league that has a uniform framework and set of rules like the NFL. Because unless you have a contract with players and it's uniformly adhered to by every school and every conference involved, it's not going to matter. But you have to have something set up so a kid signs a contract. And if he takes this NIL and says after a year, hey, I'm leaving, I'm going to a different school, the school that he's going to is obligated to pay money back to the school he's leaving. Right?
Yep.
But then you have but then, like we talked about earlier, you'd have to create a situation where, just like the professional sports draft, a school can't, like Alabama used to do back in the day, stack talent. You can't have a team where you got all the 5 stars in a cycle going to the top 4 or 5 or 6 programs. You have to put a limit on that, like you give teams a limit of first-round draft picks, right?
All right.
In the NFL, theoretically, every team gets one first-round draft pick. They could trade that pick for, future consideration. They could trade that pick for players. They could trade that pick for money, whatever. But every team gets one. And so every team has access to a 5-star player. Right? And you have 30, and there's 35 stars. Every team has access to one. You have a draft order and you get a 5-star. Is it going to be a lineman? Is it going to be a quarterback? Is it going to be a running back? Whatever that is, whatever that 5-star player ends up being, you get one. And you get to address your needs. Right? But that requires a fundamental change in the structure. Because right now it is created, it operates as a nonprofit or a not-for-profit organization that is used to promote and maintain the integrity of college sports. And that ain't what it is. It's a money-making enterprise
for the people involved.
Yeah. I don't think you could have put it any better. So there'll be a lot more developments with this as well. Very nuanced, deep dive. I mean, everybody has their thoughts and opinions. So more updates on that, and we'll just see what happens. Either way, I think we all can agree from one standpoint or another, college sports has been in trouble for a very long time. All right, so next topic, make this one real easy for you, conspiracy brother. Working the screen share ones and twos, screen share DJ. If you just type in Erika Kirk, this next topic I have right here, Erika Kirk versus Candace Owens, latest plus Druski parody. But you can just put in Erika Kirk. And yeah, guys, I think enough said to kind of set this up. We did our last episode, I believe, 10, 11 days after Charlie Kirk passed. So we missed a lot. We missed the Detroit election. We done missed, Charlie, we done missed a lot. And it's been a very interesting list of developments. And once again, guys, if you haven't been following Candace Owens, she's been pissing off the left for years. Now the hardcore Zionists right, they're in their panties because Candace Owens is doing what she does. But I guess the latest, I haven't seen the last few episodes of Candace, is that she's been putting the receipts. What she did to Bridget McCrone, what she did to Kamala Files. Now we're getting Erika Kirk, and the Zionist right is pretty butthurt over that. All right. I am a Christian American first. So I got no issue with what Candace Owens is doing. I think it's sad. Even a lot of shows and conservative shows I follow, there's just a lot of people who've been really good throughout COVID, been good about a lot of stuff, is that they are still falling for the heresy of Christians just supporting Israel no matter what. And Tucker's already exposed Mike Huckabee on that. It's already exposed Ted Cruz on that. Now Candace is just doing her thing now. So I don't know the latest of these news articles. But yeah, Druski's parody was hilarious. Well done. My only criticism of Druski is that there are certain things that, that he's not going to be able to touch. Like he won't be able to do a parody lampooning the Prophet Muhammad or certain people from the J community. So there's certain things that I don't think Druski will go to, but at least the topics he can actually get, he's allowed to make fun of. I do agree is very funny. His church, his mega pastor church skit was very funny, and him doing Erika Kirk and Whiteface, kind of Wayans Brothers white chick, kind of creepy, but it was funny. So a lot with Erika Kirk. Candace has been pulling the receipts just on how between her, the shadings of TPUSA and the Zionist movement, Israel, she's just bodying her left and right. But conspiracy brother, whatever latest you got on Erika Kirk, because she is unfortunately the gift that keeps on giving. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about her. Seeing some videos that were talking about, she essentially won Miss Arizona without ever actually competing in beauty pageants, which is really fishy. I've seen stuff about her background, her family, her father, her mother. That her mother ran some kind of charity in Ukraine or something.
Yeah, there's just think of Romania. There's just a lot of weird ties because Candace, once again, she did the receipts with Bridget McCrone. The right had no problem with that. She brought the receipts with Kamala Harris. The right had no problem with that. And she's bringing the same receipts on just her ties to growing up. She just kind of one of those things where it's like she's almost kind of grown in a lab where she has all these ties to these just different entities on the right and, the Zionist movement. And like I said, I'm kind of butchering her work, but it's just a lot, if you're not watching Candace, I get it if you're not in the loop, but I can't even really look at TPUSA the same ever again, or, because they totally pushed Charlie out. They wanted to push him out and they decided to kill him because he was waking up to the Israel thing. But yeah, conspiracy brother. Yep. If anything else you want to add, or Yeah.
Well, not really. It's yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fishy stuff in her background. It just seems so crazy. And
Yeah.
you know, man, such a weird lady.
She is, it's just a lot. All right.
Yeah.
All right, next topic. Put in no kings, ICE protests. Because we're on culture war topics. As we get back online, we'll have a more structured next week. Or even Sunday, Conspiracy Brother, if you and Pastor Green can, y'all can link up, I'm not pressuring you to do two shows, but I'm saying we want to be flexible as far as either a Friday or a Sunday, But yeah, these no king protests continue. Once again, it's been exposed for a while on how these aren't grassroots. These people come out of nowhere on a Monday, Tuesday afternoon with these high quality printed signs made up. There's been Act Blue, Indivisible, a lot of these nonprofits tied to Open Society, George Soros, all these left-leaning corporate-funded entities have been funding these protests. I think there was one, and once again, I benefit of the doubt. I know there's always paid agitators on both sides. The lady that wrote kill an ICE officer, or KILL, I don't want to get this banned, but to unalive a ICE officer, she wrote that on the wall. We don't know for sure if that's a left, she had a mask on and glasses. I mean, that could be a paid agitator as well. But the fact is just the continued absurdity to where the Dems can't realize that most of America still isn't for this. They're against illegal migrants. They want them to go, and I get it. There's this continued push for all this, and it's given the right more excuse, the Peter Thiel and JD Vances of the world to push the Palantir and to push more surveillance and more of a police state. So it kind of makes you wonder, especially the left. Those of you leftists out there, you're probably not listening, but there's a lot of you that are the useful idiots. And you have to realize that you're egging this on. There's people infiltrated in your organization that are making this look worse, to where the right can come and say, all right, bigger police state. And Trump can say, yeah, let's just get a bigger police state. And the fact that the left, there's not enough of the left recognizing that or calling it out, that must mean they're in on the take. So, Conspiracy Brother, your thoughts as we continue this no king shit show of a yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know a lot of these protests are completely funded by government, CIA, or whoever. And, I haven't seen anything here this time around. I saw it earlier. Ultimately, these people have been mobilized to confuse everyone about what is really important in life.
Yeah. Yo, hello.
Yep.
Oh, thought you fell asleep for a minute. What's going on?
No. Nope.
I think you could. Oh yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, it's these people, there are some people who legitimately believe that what they're doing is noble, but like we talked earlier about what did we talk about earlier? The soy.
Can you click images? Can you click images? You can scroll through the images too. Give our audience a little more to look at. Yeah.
Was probably AI. I guess the San Francisco Chronicle, this could be real. But
it could be, but yeah, keep scrolling. It's
because
not
San Francisco's San Francisco doesn't have any other problems. They've decided to organize a giant protest word, because the
That's
streets are
organic.
clean. Nobody's pooping on the street. There's not garbage and urine everywhere. Not drug addicts all over. And I'm not even trying to be like, oh, I went to San Francisco like 9 years ago, and it was just like feces, human feces on the street. Not everywhere. There are definitely some places that are safe and fine, but there are places where there's human feces and urine on the ground in public. And I feel like those are the kinds of things that should be more pressing for you than a No Kings protest. And I'm not even saying you got to like Donald Trump. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that the environment that you live in, I feel like there are more pressing matters for the people who need help in your city than this nonsense virtue signal. But let's see what else. People over billionaires. And I mean, sure, I can agree with that idea.
No, but
at the
it's
same
so
time.
Oh, you go right ahead. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. It's vapid. It's empty.
Where was there smoke? Where was there smoke for Bill Gates when he took Microsoft MSN and they started MSNBC in like 2000? Where was the smoke for Jeff Bezos, another billionaire oligarch who bought the Washington Post? Where was the smoke for Elon Musk, who was hosting SNL in like 2021, darling of the left? As soon as he buys Twitter, he's on the outs. Where was all this smoke? It's always the billionaires they like that are okay, but then they're protesting the billionaires that they don't like. So you miss me with all that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. They, it's all empty sloganeering, right? Nobody wants to really do anything to make a change. They just want you to agree with them.
Hands off. Oh man, all right. All right, so next topic. All right. We kind of bit a nail in that or poked a fork in that. All right, man. You just put in Joe Kent because I want to kind of wrap it up with, obviously a lot of the Iran war stuff. We got a few topics left, but I think one that can knock out a lot of that, just put in Joe Kent. Joe Kent obviously was, I think he was head of, what was his official position? He was, that he resigned from Trump administration.
I believe it was counterterrorism or something.
Yeah, former director of counterintelligence. All right, so Joe Kent, what I would say about him, he's overall, obviously I still commend him for his service, how he lost his wife during combat. Solid guy. You can't, despite how you may feel about him politically. And I think the first time I heard of Joe Kent was maybe a couple years ago, and it was actually through Nick Fuentes. And I think Nick Fuentes mentioned how early on Joe Kent had connected with Nick Fuentes. This may have been maybe 2020 or 2021. Joe was kind of courting Nick Fuentes about helping, advising him as he went on his run. And then I think as soon as Joe was getting close to getting the right appointment or getting in the right circles, he immediately disassociated from Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, there's a lot of things, he's a abrupt white supremacist, but the guy's been right about Israel. And I think early on, Nick Fuentes, going on 6, 7, 8 years ago, was outspoken about Israel. So Joe Kent early on had to just disassociate and had to come out. He got the call and had to condemn Nick Fuentes for being anti-Semitic, and kind of threw him under the bus and just ignored him for a few years. So I did have to kind of, being on Comfy Truths, I did have to mention that part because people may not know. But outside of that, he did the right things, got in the right circles, got his gig in the Trump administration. But overall, solid as far as his service and what he's done. And while I am a little iffy about his little Nick Fuentes dust up, he was completely in the right for him stepping down. I read his resignation letter and just kind of calling out how we're in another war of Iraq 2.0. So I do commend him for that, whether it was late in the game or whether or not he didn't do it soon enough. I think that, and then the recent interview we did on Tucker, is continuing to really push forward. I think this whole Iran strike conversation where the Trump is completely in the wrong. But I think Joe Kemp made another interesting component of this. So, Conspiracy Brother, you want to speak on this development, or, whether it was Joe Kent or just, was the latest with Iran, Israel, go right ahead. We still got a few topics coming, but, we might as well put all this together.
Say that one more time.
Oh, I'm saying we still got Don Lemon, and then Don Lemon storming the church with the leftists, and then the Trump Easter Day Iran threat tweet. So those are like the only two other topics coming up after this. But feel free to give your thoughts now about Joe Kent and his sort of role on this continued dialogue about the Israel-Iran, this whole war going on.
Oh yeah. I think ultimately dealing with this war, I mean, even with Joe Kent like resigning and the response from Trump and the response from people in the administration, it's unfortunate that Trump seems to be either misled or thoroughly invested in what's the word I'm thinking of? Disrupting Iran. That he would have us involved in this capacity. That he would have so many in his base upset. And he would still want to keep the course, stay the course. You'd figure he would have kept his promises to not engage in wars or new wars, and unfortunately that isn't the case at all. I don't know if in good conscience I could allow a loved one that I had to sign up for the military or anything if things ever got to be in such a state. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, I think between in the Biden administration, Ukraine-Russia conflict, and then this final Iran strike, as far as like, I still being patriotic toward my country, but as far as the government and this link to the military, like that, the patriotically, as far as like serving, this killed all that. I'm totally with you on that. And I think you mentioned a while ago, discerning the fact that we can still love our country, but still criticize our government. And being patriotic doesn't mean you fall in line and do and agree and advocate for whatever the U.S. government does. But being a patriot means having a love for whatever's best for your country and what that would lead to, and what you would fight for, versus, whatever the government said or whatever the president said says that's me being patriotic. So I could understand the the kind of black pilling we're kind of in right now. But yeah, conspiracy brother, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have this, and it's always existed, but it's a weird relationship with patriotism and like a moral integrity, where people think that if you decide to be a patriot or have a patriotic perspective, that must mean that you're also going to completely allow any and all behaviors from the government or the representatives of the country. And it can't be like that. I don't subscribe to that way of thinking, and
Yep. And conspiracy brother, if you could click on images and maybe scroll down, just so we can kind of get the audience just a little more stuff to look at on screen. But yeah, I mean, just between his interview on Tucker and it's just the ongoing, we're just seeing the same play being ran. That's kind of part of what he talked about in his resignation letter. And how, you even got Hegseth going like, well, I'm sure you guys say this isn't that. Like, we're getting 2 weeks of slow to spread vibes. Like, 1 week becomes a month already. And now 1 month we'll look up into 6 months. So, so let's go ahead and next one. Let's get Don Lemon out the way, just because, and I get it. He's just a pain in the who, but we got to just, berate this guy. So you can put in Don Lemon. I think recently, because I think it was a few months ago in December, him and some Minnesota leftists, they stormed a church and tried to say, oh, this is free speech, and, impeded on a religious ceremony, a religious service. And where's that same smoke? They want to make an excuse, and then if there's just people praying outside an abortion clinic, they all get arrested. So if you wanted to type in Don Lemon, I think federal charges, I think there was something recently where Don Lemon and those 30, 40 folks, they're getting arraigned on federal charges for storming into that church in Minnesota. Conspiracy brother, I don't know if you. Yeah. All right. And I kind of bring this up similar to what I made the point about Druski, is that would Don Lemon walk into that leftist church? Would Don Lemon walk in with those leftist protesters? Would you have the same energy walking into a Muslim mosque and then saying, well, the Prophet Muhammad, he talked about free speech and interrupting the Muslim ceremony, or going to a Zionist synagogue and interrupting that service and getting into the rabbi's face? I think not. Is that same hypocrisy to where we've kind of created this scenario where Christianity always tends to be the punching bag or the passive, meek people that they can kind of run in and bully around. But Don wouldn't set foot in a synagogue or a Muslim mosque with that same energy. Same way with Druski, he's not going to dress up as the Prophet Muhammad or Rabbi Shmuley, So it kind of makes you wonder, and that has to be called out. That's why it's uncomfy truths. So once again, Don Lemon just channeling his older inner black woman, doing the same shaking my head stuff we saw him back at CNN. So I ain't got much to say about this clown, another charlatan. Conspiracy brother, what say you?
I don't know, man. He's a garbage person, so. He's a garbage person.
Yeah, I can't even look at him. Yeah. Enough said. All right. Short and sweet. All right. Okay. Next, we got second to the last topic. Trump Easter Day Iran threat tweet. And I think this correlates well with, I guess, to kind of dovetail with the growing MAGA divide and how you mentioned earlier, Conspiracy Brother. So if you want to just type in Trump Easter Day Iran threat tweet, that just kind of, in essence, just shows just the level of kind of, like you said, Trump's being misled, Trump's being compromised, or Trump still has to fulfill that $100 million that he got from Ariel Edelson. So it's just really sad because, once again, like, looking back at the 2024 election, Kamala, we knew what we were going to get. The old guard Democrats coming after conservatives, whatnot. At least with Trump, we had a 50-50 shot where, yeah, he can fall in line, or he's in a position financially where he could flip the game table over. And Trump just decided to kind of continue pushing this pro-Iran war. And like I mentioned this on a show maybe a year and a half ago or a year ago, that let's not underestimate that. I think the Uniparty and the Zionists, they're still keeping that card of, if Trump isn't going to do enough of what we want, or if he's going to have a hard line at some point, or there's just enough public backlash, don't think that they'll end up killing Trump for real. And then once again, using that as a rallying cry. It was Iran. You see what happened? Iran killed your leader, MAGA. Iran killed your king. Let's go to Iran and get him. Like, don't think that that's not still a card. If Trump ends up pushing back against something, or like I mentioned, the backlash is enough. So he put out this tweet on Easter. I think, if you look for Sunday, April 5th tweet, Easter 2026 tweet, where basically he just threatened, like, Iran, we're going to bomb you and all that. No happy Easter, no, it's Christian holiday. So I think that really got people riled up in a bunch, where it's like, can't even acknowledge, Jesus rising again and whatnot. And then the left's all been up out of shape about it as well. So is this, Conspiracy Brother, my question to you, is this do you think something like this is maybe one of the last straws that's really, really starting to show people, like, the divide between the Zionists Israel first and then the America first, America only? Do you think this is Trump really just showing who he is? And this is, do you think, a turning point, or just, what do you think?
No, I think ultimately this won't change anything. There aren't enough people who actually care. A lot of this boils down to just run-of-the-mill red team, blue team, my team, your team ideology. And so they'll defend Trump because certain people hate him, or they'll condemn Trump because certain people like him, and that's where things will be. But ultimately, nothing will change.
Well said. Well said. And this might be a record short episode tonight, but I ain't complaining because, Uncomfy Truths, once again, Conspiracy Brother, your commitment, and Pastor Green, if we could keep these going weekly, either Friday or Sunday, in this little 2-hour sweet spot, I think it'll definitely help toward our audience growing, or, just really the algorithm, either way. But yeah, so our final topic, and once again, if we have any time left, we can kind of freestyle, but we get into tinfoil. Our fifth topic is the tinfoil hat. So this is a part of the show where we kind of go into a little conspiracy land, or what we like to say, just wait 6 months, 6 to 12 months, it actually happens. But we had this recent moon landing, not moon landing, this whole Artemis 2, and that's great, but what about the Epstein files? And also on top of that, I think it was a few days ago, the other night, First Lady Melania Trump came out, dismissed any claim she was connected with, Ghislaine or Epstein. Jury's still out. What I do appreciate that she did mention, like, hey, I call upon Congress to have the victims come testify. Now, I agree with that, because that's something I think even Matt Walsh was saying that, or maybe I don't know if maybe Thomas Massey on how, you can go testify in front of the House, and I think anything you say on the House floor, you're like, I think immune from prosecute or something like that, where it can't be stricken or anything like that. So a lot of these Epstein victims that went ahead and did the Super Bowl commercial, but then they couldn't point at any names, go ahead and get on that House committee hearing and actually start releasing what you say is that you can speak. If people aren't speaking for you, the files aren't coming out, speak. So I would say without going too far in conspiracy land, conspiracy brother, if you could just type in Artemis 2 landing. And apparently this is a new mission they did with NASA. And I think it's just all kind of distracting us from Iran war, Epstein files. Hey, look, we're doing this cool new thing with the moon. Don't worry about the Epstein files. Don't worry about our war in Iran. So you can just type in Artemis 2 moon mission. And it's getting a lot of hoopla on the right. And basically, conspiracy brother, you there? I think we may have lost him. All right. Well, while he's pulling that up, so once again, this Artemis 2, apparently they're not. It took us 50, 60 years to go back to the moon for whatever reason, and now we're doing a trip around the moon. And I could kind of care less. It's kind of like where a year ago, they tried to say, "Oh, there's aliens, UFO files. Look at all this." Nobody cared. We're starting to see the playbook. We're starting to see how when something very significant that's happening, like pedophiles screwing with kids and the elite and all that, all of a sudden we get this new thing about the moon or just other little foolishness. So I bring that up to say I think this Artemis 2 mission around the moon is just another distraction. No similar to whatever was going on in the 50s. Everything is about the Wild West and all this and some nuclear Cold War, nuclear testing. And they decided to do a space race to distract us from the corruption with that. So that's my take on it. Conspiracy brother, are you there? So like you might be dozing off or sleep. Hello? All right, I have no controls over the screen share. So, conspiracy brother? All right. This is, all right, give me a moment, guys. Okay, all right. So, I got another 15 minutes anyway. So let's fill the time somehow, some way. Conspiracy brother may have fell asleep or may have stepped away. But yeah, so that was just my initial thoughts. So since I'm kind of stuck on this screen, see if I could fill the time with a little filler. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see. I don't think we got any comments. We're just getting back to things. Y'all don't trust us yet. Y'all been gone so long, So yeah, as we kind of look back at this whole issue with Trump-Iran war, and we talked about this before. We did a show on this, I think, back when I think Salvation's sister and Pastor Tim Parker were on. And basically, Israel has what's called the Samson option. And I believe that there's like a whole book on this, and Andy Frisella over the Real AF podcast talked a lot about this. And basically how, basically they got the nukes. The whole, Iran has a nuclear program. Can't let them get a nuclear weapon. Israel's the real person you got to worry about with the nukes. Because I think when the truth can't be put back in the bottle, when there is enough resistance, if Trump starts to push back, I don't have a problem. I don't have any doubt behind there either being some sort of cyber attack, grid down, power down, no more internet, or Israel deciding to just launch the nukes, and it's a Samson option. I think all that is on the table because what they're doing is while they do this Iran war strike nonsense, they're trying to throw us a bone a little still. Like, oh, we rescued 7,000 missing kids. Great. I hope that really happened, because part of me wonders if that really happened, or you're just throwing that out there. Or, once again, this Artemis 2 moon mission. So the biggest concern I have while we're still waiting on Conspiracy Brother to come back, I got to hop off for 14 minutes. But I'll try and fill in the time as much as I can. Might as well. That's just the biggest issue I have, is that, this goes back to, I think, a book, Rashad Belial from the Earn Your Leisure podcast. He's overall a pretty moderate, normie type Democrat, I think. He doesn't identify as Democrat. I'm an independent, but he still has mainly left leaning thinking. But he brings up a good point about, there's a book called I think it's called the economics of a hitman, or the economics of the playbook of an economic hitman. And just, there's been books and studies on these 7 states, the 7 states that the Uniparty, the Zionists, wants to take over. And I believe it was Libya, Sudan, which had Gaddafi, who was the first country that was trying to launch their own African central bank. He gets wiped out after calling out the U.S. at the UN 2009 address. There was Libya, Sudan, Iran, Iraq, and conveniently over the past 20 years, each of these countries, one after the other, gets knocked out. And now we're at a point where we got one left standing, Iran. And it's unfortunate, because even if Kamala won, y'all, it's a slow roll for her eventually being like, I had no choice, my hands were tied, and she'll be doing it in a performative, I have no choice sort of thing. It might be a little slower. We might get to Iran strike and dismemberment by like the time she leaves office, but it would have got done. But Trump, it's more like the Zionists know they can push him further to make it happen quicker. So it's kind of a win-win for them, because they could probably get their agenda done in half the time, versus Kamala got a slow walk, her fulfilling this 100 years 7-state destabilization. All right. So that's just a little inside game there. All right. And the other thing to keep in mind is the fact that, and just being war is always the biggest money generator. So all these constituents, all these donors, at the end of the day, they're all about war. So that's basically the number one thing we got to keep worrying about. All right. What else? Conspiracy brother. Okay. All right. Somebody help me wake him up. All right. What else we got? Okay, I'm gonna give it 10 more minutes. I guess I'll do a little housekeeping. Like I said, we're gonna be starting back the episodes weekly, either on Friday or Friday or Sunday. You just gotta check the notification to see when we pop on. I've been saying for the longest, we're gonna maybe start getting back to it, cutting up mini clips of the show, so you won't just have a whole live stream to worry about. And yeah, man, I think as much as sometimes doing this show is a headache, I learn something from Conspiracy Brother or Pastor Green every episode. They give me new insight or different perspectives I didn't think about. Maybe you guys are listening. You guys might think of something a certain way or a new way that you may have not thought about. And it's good political venting on my end as well. This keeps me from joining all these group chats and sending my friends and people I know this podcast episode and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, people don't want to listen to what they want to listen to. And most people don't want to listen to a podcast you send them. So for me, I kind of unplugged kind of away from the group chats and the doom and gloom, the Telegram group me, all that stuff. So I just come here for this. This is like a good way for me to get things out, take what I listen to podcast-wise throughout the week, And then we bring it here. We mix in a little Detroit, Michigan politics, our local town. Correlate that back to the bigger picture, And like I said, there's topics that we're going to have each week. 5 main topics and then subtopics between that. The 5 topics are first, domestic and local affairs / presidential administration latest news. Second topic is culture war. That's always always some new hot button topic. Third topic is foreign affairs. Fourth topic, religion. And then the 5th topic, tinfoil hat, where we kind of talking about the moon landing and whatnot. So look forward to that. I think also too, what was I about to say? I think there's some other topics here from our last show. Because once again, guys, our last show was September of 2025. And we're just getting back to things April of 2026. So thank God we made it through a new year. I'm going to read off actually some of the topics that we didn't get around to that we were going to try and cover. We were going to cover between the September and then the April we're at now. So Blue Wave 2025 off-cycle election results and reactions, NYC. Obviously, since we've been away, Zohran Mamdani got elected. Virginia, that older white chick, she's Virginia governor, forgot her name. Then New Jersey. And then obviously, since we've been away, the Detroit mayoral elections, Mayor Mary Sheffield, now the new mayor of Detroit, 2025 government shutdown. We had a topic here back in the fall, federal versus state civil war, ICE versus sanctuary cities. Since we've been gone, there was former FBI director, I think right before we had our last episode, James Comey, Letitia James had federal charges brought up. The Biden DOJ was caught spying on Republican senators. And I think also too, Trump awards Charlie Kirk the posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I got a few takes on that. I want to say a few takes, but it's once again a creepy sort of just how MLK got assassinated. He gets a new street in a high school, and you're gonna get a statue, and they were kind of now Charlie Kirk, and I think in Israel has like a new Charlie Kirk Avenue. So it was a very creepy kind of, you had issues with him. You stabbed him in his back. You did all this sort of stuff when he was alive. You guys killed him. And now, he was great. He was a martyr. We'll never forget you, Charlie. So we're kind of seeing that. I'm not comparing Charlie Kirk to MLK. I think Charlie Kirk was his own leader in his own lane for what he believed in, hardcore Christian. Charlie Kirk was more of a Christian than MLK Jr. I'm sorry. MLK Jr. was a socialist, Marxist. He did fight through a lot of grievances and kind of with black folks, but he was the godfather of that social justice warrior stuff. And wasn't like this Christian God-fearing Jesus loving man. He never mentioned about accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, or preaching the gospel, any of that. It was a very, if you look up Chad O. Jackson, he's still putting together an MLK documentary on him right now, and it's really discovering a lot of his Marxist socialist funding and people that kind of brought him along. So I'm just being real. There's still things I appreciate about MLK, but we have to once again realize that there is no perfect man. I'm not perfect. I'm a piece of crap sometimes. And the only really perfect person isn't Martin Luther King Jr., isn't Charlie Kirk, isn't Trump, is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I'm gonna go ahead, since Conspiracy Brothers in here, I'm gonna share the gospel with y'all a little bit. All right, that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, when you have a Christian worldview, more than not, that fights away the sin of having an idol. I say the idol is the biggest, I say that's the biggest distraction, or really the biggest thing that pulls people apart from each other. You know, when people are idle to their skin color and say, I'm black and you can't say that about me, you're being a racist. Or, oh, you can't say that about me being a man that wants to identify as a woman to go to the women's bathroom. That's transphobic. Or, oh, you can't say that, you know, when we got to say something we don't like or criticize our community. Yeah, we cancel your bank accounts and, you know, can't let you work anymore. But to say that and notice that, that's anti-Semitic. So what you see is both the left and the right, they have this idol issue where they believe in protected classes, even though the right claims, no, there's no protected classes. It's all about merit. Like, no, and anything that offends a Israeli Jewish person, all of a sudden it's anti-Semitic. No, you're putting yourself on the cross like you're a person that can't be criticized. Same with the left. Same with you're a racist, you're transphobic. So the biggest, the main cure to all that is when you have a humbleness of, hey, I'm human and I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. There is no perfect human or no perfect human group of people. The Democratic Party isn't perfect. Republican Party isn't perfect. Charlie Kirk isn't perfect. Martin Luther King Jr. isn't perfect. Trump isn't perfect. The only perfect person is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and not any one person, politician, or political party or group of people. That both black people are above criticism. Oh, you can't criticize trans people. Oh, you can't criticize, the Zionists Israel because you're anti-Semitic. Like, no, all of y'all can get the smoke. Every single one of y'all can get the smoke because y'all not perfect and your group isn't either. And there isn't one group, either one of you, that's above the other. So that's my biggest beef. You know, and I'm going to wrap up here. Conspiracy Brother, I think you fell asleep or whatnot. So this live stream, I guess, is going to go as long as it is. But I definitely hope you can mute. You know, might be hearing some snoring. But I'm about to take off in a couple minutes. But I want to leave you guys with this. As Uncomfy Truths, we wrap up episode 53, long overdue. And like I said at the start of the show, it's so funny because we took off February 2023. Next thing you know, we got October 7th that fall. We came back in November. Like, oh, I guess we got to talk about this. And then we ended September 2025. Not ended, but we went on a little hiatus break. And then since we've been gone, all of a sudden, the Iran strike, whole new war, or a whole new escalation of the same conflict. So I guess it's a weird thing that, like, you know, the whole Al Pacino Godfather 3, just when I'm out, they pulled me back in. So just when we think we're out and we're kind of falling off, there's always a new conflict that just brings us back in. So the few guys that watch us that appreciate it, all three of you, thanks for listening or kind of encouraging us offline to keep going or asking us, you know, when we're coming back. You know, we appreciate that. And yeah, man, I'm just going to end it right at 10 o'clock because I got to get out of here. Conspiracy Brother, wake up. Cut the stream off or folks going to be hearing some snoring. I don't know what the deal. But yeah, everybody take care. We will see you back. Let me go ahead and read off our little classic line I had. It's my alarm to get on out of here. All right, y'all. And usually we would start the show with an opening prayer, closing prayer by Pastor Green. Pastor Green should hopefully be joining us next episode or next Sunday we have available. So look out for him. He's still part of our show. We're just trying to get back on the wagon slowly but surely. He couldn't join us this first episode back, but we will be seeing more of him. And then I'm just, so I'm gonna leave more of the prayer to him. That's his wheelhouse. So our parting words here at Uncomfy Truths. Remember, stay awake, not woke. Just because we're paranoid doesn't mean we're wrong. Keep thinking for yourself. And remember, if somebody else doesn't say it, then we will. Have a good night. See ya. And stay tuned, Uncomfy Truths.